All right, thank you guys for joining us for another Health Truth Life video here. We're glad to be back. And for another fun Matrix, Health Truth Life Matrix episode. We've actually already gone through, I just realized this, gone through half the Matrix. We're starting the second half now. So we're down here under recovery, and today we're going to be talking about sleep. Very, very important part of our lives. We spend so much time doing it, and it's important that we do it well.
We do. And so just to kind of rehash with respect to things, starting on a new section here, that being recovery, that includes sleep, order, prayer, and resilience. These are four things we're going to be talking about with respect to the recovery aspect of the matrix. And recovery is huge because recovery is required to get you in a place where you're most able to do and manage the functions that you have to functions in life, and so, or that you have to do in life. Sleep is a part of that. So sleep allows for regeneration of energy. It allows for basically for your body's systems to slow down and kind of catch up with what it had to go through the previous day and what it can get ready for the next day. Lets your mind kind of recuperate and restore, and also allows for good hormone production during the nighttime, as long as sleep is accessed in a way that's deep and restorative. So
it's funny because I don't think we take the time to realize, and that's hopefully what this video will accomplish, like how important and pivotal sleep is in our lives. A lot of people neglect it because I don't think they're aware of what all is happening while they're laying down, you know. A lot of people feel like, I guess, they're being unproductive, or they could be doing more and, you know, more important things, when in actuality taking the time to do this well will reap valuable benefits. So
absolutely.
You start out by saying sleep compromises approximately 1/3 of our life, and we thrive when it is selfishly protected. This is one of those areas in life where it's important to be selfish about it, you know, and make sure you're getting it, because as we'll talk about, the benefits that you're going to receive from it are going to impact those around you, and you're going to be better able to love and support and be there for, you know, those that you interact with throughout your day.
Absolutely.
It's estimated that 30 million Americans suffer with short-term insomnia. That's a lot. And then 35 million Americans struggle with long-term insomnia. That's a lot. Large numbers.
Yeah, so you're thinking that's 60 million people out of what, 300, 350 in the United States, something like that. So you're talking a significant amount with insomnia, diagnosis of insomnia. I think a majority of people, though, have difficulty sleeping at some period in their life, whether it's a couple days a week or during, you know, stressful times of their year, or they're having difficulty with sleep. And I think it's just important to recognize that that can be, you know, we can get off balance with an illness or with a stressful project or a circadian change, like in other words, you're changing your schedule for something. And that happens with lots of different careers that can affect, you know, the quality of your sleep and also just the maintenance of your, you know, overall body's function and health.
I mean, I think it's such a significant issue right now in the lives of most Americans because of the lifestyle, you know, we've kind of created to try to, you know, accomplish as much as you can. Entertainment now, because screens are so accessible, and there's so many shows now. Like, if you've ever gotten on Netflix recently and tried to look and find something, it's like overwhelming. And you hear about these people that are just like binge watching show after show, and like, man, think about how much sleep is lost because of
the binge watching can be, you know, I mean, I'll say terrible in a sense of how it affects your mind, your body, your spirit. And that blue light, the screen light that you get, you know, later in the afternoon or evening, can again suppress good melatonin production, and melatonin production is required to initiate and maintain sleep, and that is inhibited or reduced with more screen exposure later in the day and in the evening. And so just again, some persistent tools we keep talking about is good high sunlight or bright light exposure earlier in the day, with less blue light and light exposure later in the day and evening as the sun goes down, can be beneficial to overall sleep.
Hitting on how big of an issue this is for the majority of Americans and people in general. What do you think the second most consumed beverage is right now in America?
Second most consumed?
Yeah, some studies said the number one, but this one I read, it said number two, and I'll give you these stats.
Interesting. Okay, so I mean, I'm thinking coffee's up there as
Coffee.
a high. Is that number 2?
Coffee, yeah. They say.
What's number 1?
Supposedly,
Water?
but this water, yeah.
Okay.
While water is most frequently consumed, it's the most frequently consumed beverage in the country, with 66% of Americans drinking it daily, which is crazy to think about. That many people might not be drinking it daily.
Caffeine is a drug too.
But it says, coffee is close behind, with 63% of Americans having a mug of Joe each morning. So
I'm surprised it's not even higher than that.
I did read one that said coffee was at like 67, passing water.
Okay.
And I just had a hard. I mean, maybe that's true. It's somewhere. It's up there though, for sure. People are consuming as much coffee, if not more.
Your discussion on caffeine plays into sleep.
Exactly. Most people go to a cup of coffee because they feel like it's going to give them that boost. They didn't have a good night's sleep. They need something more. Sleep wasn't enough, so they have to do that to give them energy, to get them going, for the day. So that was just kind of interesting. I thought that
definitely is a good point. It ties into sleep, and just to discuss this at this point, the metabolites and just the effect of caffeine later in the evening and day can certainly affect sleep. And so there's a recommendation, if you're having challenges with sleep, cut off the caffeine after noon or after 12 noon, and then reduce it as much as you can before noon. So if you're doing 3 cups in the morning, maybe go to 2 cups, and maybe be strict about not getting it after 11 a.m. or 12 noon. And that could possibly benefit your sleep initiation and also maintenance. So
I kind of wanted to get into chronic sleep deprivation and what all it can attribute to negatively.
Right.
Do you want to discuss that? So I've read through several studies, and it says, sleep plays a fundamental role in the functioning of nearly all systems of the body. So a persistent lack of sleep poses significant risk to physical and mental health. So it affects cardiovascular disease. So studies have found strong associations between sleep deficiencies and cardiovascular problems, including high blood pressure, coronary heart disease, heart attack, and stroke.
No question.
So for sure. Diabetes. Insufficient sleep appears to affect the body's ability to regulate blood sugar, increasing the risk of metabolic conditions like diabetes. Obesity. Research has found that people tend to consume more calories and carbohydrates when they do not get enough sleep, which is just one of several ways that poor sleep may be tied to obesity and problems maintaining a healthy weight.
Absolutely.
Immunodeficiencies. So sleep deficiency has been linked to worsening immune function, including a poor response, this says, to vaccines.
And probably in vaccines, if you think about it, that's an antigen that's trying to stimulate your body's immune production, but also to viruses. Absolutely. Diminished sleep will affect your immune system. So being selfish with your sleep is certainly important for your physical health. Tying a lot of those medical conditions in is recognizing the factor that obstructive sleep apnea, which is an undiagnosed illness or disease, they'll call it, that we call it in men and women out there. And that's something just to be aware of, that if you have, severe fatigue when you wake up, morning headaches when you wake up, significant snoring or gasping during sleep that you're being, reported to be doing, those are signs and symptoms of obstructive sleep apnea, and you want to see potentially a sleep specialist or ask your physician about getting a sleep study. You can also, there's some apps out there that can help you diagnose sleep apnea in you. There's also sleep trackers that can track your sleep and track your blood oxygen concentration during the night to see if you lower your O2 saturation, your oxygen in your blood. That's an indication of obstructive sleep apnea. And those are independent risk factors for cardiovascular disease, heart attack, stroke, diabetes, obesity, all that. So for sure.
There's a couple more, just real quick. Hormonal abnormalities.
Absolutely.
Pain, and then mental health disorders. I mean, all these, lack of sleep, sleep deprivation has an opportunity to affect all of these, in a negative way, and to lend towards these. So it shows you how important it is.
Sleep deprivation can lead to acute psychosis as well. People completely losing their mind if they're not able to sleep. And that's after about 3 days,
Wow.
So it's pretty incredible how important sleep is.
Surely we've all noticed, I have in my own life, when I don't get a good night's sleep, I am so much more irritable, grumpy, angry, more apt to react in a more aggressive, frustrating way, you know.
Absolutely.
So I mean, it's so important. So we talk about the 4 stages of sleep. Do you want to go into the sleep cycles and you want me to read over those?
Yeah, read over them. We'll talk about them.
So basically, each person ideally has 4 to 5 sleep cycles each night, encompassing each of the 4 stages of sleep. And the 4 stages of sleep are stage 1, the period between wakefulness and light sleep. That one's usually short in duration. Stage 2 is we spend 50% of the night here. It's all body functions slow down. Stage 3, deep delta wave sleep.
And that stage 2 is a light sleep. So that's you spend the predominance of your night in what's called light sleep, phase.
Okay.
But keep going.
So then stage 3 is the deep delta wave sleep. It's when you're the hardest to arouse. It's restorative, and 10 to 20% of your sleep is in this stage.
And the predominance of this deeper delta wave sleep is earlier in the evening. So it's between that 10 to 2 or 3 a.m. period if you're going to sleep around 9, So, and you want to get in that, 90 to 120 minutes of deep delta wave sleep. It's that body regeneration and restoration. It's where you're completely out. You're gone to the world. That's also a time whenever you do get stimulated to secrete growth hormone, which is a beneficial hormone that's secreted by our brain to help restore your muscular activity, to maintain good vitality in a sense.
And then there's step 4, the REM, the REM sleep. Takes 90 minutes to achieve this stage, and it's 25% of your sleep.
Yep, and that's 20 to 25% of your sleep as well. Probably in that 90 to 120 minutes. You're looking at REM sleep also, just as far as timing goes, is typically on the other end of sleep. So it's usually closer to that 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. You're usually getting the REM sleep later in your sleep. But the cycles will start with REM, like you said, about an hour and a half to 2 hours after you've initiated sleep. And you'll have, again, these cycles. You'll see it when they're tracked. You'll go through a deep, light phase, then a deep phase, and then a light phase, and a deep phase, and a light phase, then a deep, then an REM, then a light, then a REM, then a light, then a REM. So you kind of see that's what happens throughout the evening. You get these 4 to 5 kind of sleep cycles that include these stages. It's fascinating.
It's interesting, it really is. Is the deep delta, like the REM, are you still in that deep of a sleep? Is it
REM is less
deep?
Okay. Yeah, your brain is active.
Okay.
It's actually kind of a part of a dreaming phase as well. There's a concept that you're dreaming more during REM, potentially.
So that's the body's process of kind of coming out of that deep? Or is it, because it's interesting that that's the flow of it. And if it's happening, if the REM is happening at closer you get to waking up,
Not quite sure how to answer that question. Just knowing that, just those getting through those stages and getting through a good 7 to 9 hours of sleep, optimally 8 hours, is just so important to complete those stages and those cycles.
We move on to, it says, disruption of the normal sleep patterns are known to be associated with significant health conditions, from predisposition to metabolic syndrome and cardiac disease, all the way to psychotic breakdowns, like we talked about earlier.
Absolutely. I remember, honestly, years ago, I had a real stressful time in my career one time. This is like probably 7-8 years ago. And I was down in Gainesville and was having some adjustment issues with respect to the job down there. Had really some big blessings, but just had some big changes and challenges. And I went 2 nights where I slept like maybe 2 hours, and I was having to work during that time, 9-10 hours a day. And whether it was a radiologist, you're processing a lot of information, and I'm processing new relationships with the residents and the other attendings. And I promise you, man, after about 3 days of that, I literally thought like I was going to lose my mind, because I was having to process so much during the day with my work and navigating that component at a high level, but then not getting restorative sleep. You're talking a couple hours a night. And this again was another awakening with respect to this desire to empower patients with respect to integrative medicine, is, hey, how do I get people to sleep better when they're going through these acute phases of high stress? how do you get them down, you know,
Right.
and get them to kind of calm down and sleep. And so, yeah, again, we've kind of gone through some of that we go through that with patients, and we're trying to empower you out there as individuals that whenever you're going through these processes, it's not always a medication that you have to be given, but it could be plus or minus some supplementation, but other significant lifestyle approaches to really try and navigate, hey, how do we get this balanced out during these times?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's good. Do you want to take some time and go into what
steps?
Steps, yeah, or like what all do you think is causing this? Because it's almost like we have a pandemic of sleep deprivation and sleep issues. What do you think are the main things causing it right now?
I think, well, stress. So mental and emotional stress is significant because the fact that you have mental and emotional stress that's outside of your balance, your ability to balance that, will cause cortisol and epinephrine to be secreted by your adrenal glands at high levels and high amounts. And that is one of the theories of why you may have significant disruptions in sleep during times of very acute stress, because that cortisol and the epinephrine acts to keep all your body's systems in alert mode and in fight or flight mode, which is that sympathetic nervous system where you're basically waiting for the lion to attack, and you can't get out of that. So trying to move yourself out of that situation with lifestyle approaches, which may be meditation, prayer, breathing exercises, supplementation with very high doses of magnesium. You may also consider things like lemon balm, chamomille, l-theanine, valerian root. These are things that are used in multiple ways to try and get someone to kind of come out of that hyper acute stress response. And these things work, and they really do work. Of course, people say exercise as well. I would say during times of acute stress, you don't want to do high level exercise, but low intensity exercise, absolutely. Walking, low or moderate intensity exercise can help kind of boost you out of those times of acute stress when you're not sleeping. The other thing I want to let you know that have a doctor, or you go do your own work to see about getting your cortisol checked, which can be done through either a blood test or saliva cortisol, which we do a 4-point on many of our patients, where we're checking an early morning, a noon, an early evening, and a late, or a late night cortisol, to see where they are on that curve. And if they're significantly high in cortisol at night before going to sleep, they're not going to sleep as well. And there's ways to get that down. Other things, phosphatidylserine is another good nutrient and supplement that can be utilized to lower cortisol at night. But of course, lifestyle things. So if people are having high stress in the evening, man, or balance with respect to relationships, or getting ready for the next day of school, man, your cortisol is going to be super high. Got to get that down with a good nighttime routine. To kind of get that down.
I think a lot of it is getting the mind to shut up. A lot of people, I think, struggle with, trying to stop thinking about tasks at work or relationship issues, frustrations with your spouse, or like whatever it might be.
That doesn't happen, does it?
No, never have that. But we get caught in these cycles with our thoughts, and then next thing you know, you lay down to try to sleep, and you're going through all these things, either things that happen through that day or are going to happen the next day. And I think that's the key, is trying to figure out how to shut the mind off, rest, peacefully be able to lay down and let your body do what it needs to do.
And sometimes you can't do that despite what your mind is saying. And that's where you kind of consider, okay, does the patient have a progesterone deficiency? In the case of many women, where progesterone actually is a godsend to them because they can't sleep without it, or other things, other adaptogens that we talk about with respect to the stress response. But yes, putting your mind in a peaceful situation and or mode with respect to meditation, prayer, setting your mind above, which we talk about a lot with our patients, that is a training and or a habitual thing that's necessary to try and work with everything.
There's a lot of scripture that goes over this, that be anxious for nothing. We've talked about that a lot, because a lot of times our thoughts, our anxious thoughts, are what kind of come to us when we lay down.
Right.
And so the next thing you know, you're stressed and you're anxious about what happened in the day or what's going to happen the next day. There's a psalm that I really like, and it's Psalm 4 verse 8, and it says, "In peace I will lie down and sleep. For you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety." And so coming to that point each night, we can kind of give all of our stuff to the Lord. If it's finances, if it's stressful relationships, if it's job opportunities or lack thereof, or whatever it is, we can just give those up to the Lord and know we can lay down and sleep in peace, because He is our safety. He's our provider. He's going to make a way. And yes, I know that, for sure, seek the medical treatment where needed, when necessary. But each night, I think, even if you're dealing with some medical issues, you can give those to God and know you'll have peace of mind as you lay down, that you're in good hands. And, you can kind of let go of all those stresses and worries and literally lie down in peace. There's that peace that surpasses understanding. And I think that's what we get caught in our mind. The mind trap is when we're trying to understand everything that's going on. And if we just seek the Lord, lay down in peace, trust Him, you can take a breath.
You can, but some people can't. And this is where it is encouraging that there is tying both, but I'm hesitant to say that fixes everything. Because there's physical things that sometimes have to be teased out that are, and again, I'm not going to say it's beyond. It's just, I think it works. It's like both and. You're doing both, because it's like, many people are doing maybe the wrong thing lifestyle-wise that may lend to a poor ability to sleep and calm down, whether it's what they're eating, what they're doing with their body, but yet spiritually they're dialed in, right? Or they say they're dialed in, or you perceive that, but the point is they may not be, one, and two, there may have some significant things they're doing in other parts of their life that are working like right against any degree of spiritual wholeness they're trying to find, So it's kind of, I don't want people to think that you pray and it goes away. Now there is scripture that does say that, and I have seen that and heard that and experienced that prayer does change everything. But I just want to say that, hey, I want to give you tools for kind of all of this with respect to sleep, because I've heard of people that have come in and sit in this room and said, I got prayed for days and I can't sleep. And like, well, what am I doing wrong? Well, is it your faith? I would not say that to a patient. I would say, look, let's work on these things to then try and balance those out. As we do this, let's do this as well to find that middle ground. I'm not discounting the component of the piece, but it's like a multifactorial thing,
totally. You can't pound a whole large pizza, watch a bunch of horror movies, go say a prayer and lay down and think you're going to sleep in peace.
There you go.
Totally. There's,
right. So, I guess what would you put on instead of horror movies, I guess? I don't know.
Watch some Bambi.
Highway to Heaven. Or, oh, goodness. Little House on the Prairie. How about that?
There you go. A great show, The Chosen. You'll be learning more about the truth, and then you can kind of, it's neat. It's a great show. Learn about Jesus and how He lived while He was on the earth, and you won't be too freaked out and scared after that, I don't think. But it's good. A lot of good stuff there. A lot to unpack still. You did get into shift work and covering individuals that you have to work overnight.
No question. So it's identify shift. First shift. 8 to 5, your banker's hours. Second shift, kind of 4 to 11, 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. Third shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And you'll see progressively through that rotation, the first shift workers are definitely the most balanced with respect to sleep and health if they're consistent with their work and work hours. The second shift workers get a little bit disbalanced. They do get some sunlight during the day, and they've got a little bit of the nighttime work, and they still get some component of sleep that's pretty scheduled.
So they're like afternoon till late night.
Exactly,
Yeah.
but they'll oftentimes get to sleep around midnight and wake up at 8 a.m. So they're not too bad as far as compared to shift one.
Right.
But then the overnight, that third shift is definitely disbalanced with respect to their circadian clock. And those are typically, the evidence shows that second and third shift workers, but particularly third shift workers, tend to have worse outcome and lower life expectancy if it's consistent with that, if they're persistent with respect to that schedule. Does it mean get out of a third shift environment? Well, I think long term that may be a consideration, you know, and that's something you just have to decide for yourself whether or not you can find something in that first shift that's going to be more balanced for your lifestyle.
Yeah. And that's tempting. They make it hard because of the incentives, you know, there's more pay and benefits
Absolutely.
and all that. But
and I think as you're younger, you can adjust more, but as you get older, your sleep is much more precious, and the circadian disruption affects you so much more when you're older than it does if you're 20. And I see that now at 50. My sleep disruption now is much more disruptive or I guess it affects me more than my sleep disruption when I was 20 or in 30 when I was in med school and residency. I could adjust quicker, you know? So
totally. Yeah, once a year I do this thing with my boys where I let them stay up all night. We call it man night. And we stay up all night. I let them do whatever they want. It usually is crazy. And we started this 10 years ago, maybe longer. And the first few times we did it, I stayed up all night. I was great. You know, I didn't have any issues. Woke up the next day. I was like, man, I'm okay. You know, I felt tired and all that. I've tried the last couple of years we've done it. I haven't made it till I'm at midnight or 1 o'clock, and I'm like, I'm done. Sorry,
it's like
boys.
New Year's Eve,
and then I still feel it even more the next day. I wake up and like, oh man, I'm sore. Like, I'm groggy. So definitely it hits us all more as we get older. That's for sure. So then, we went over, you know, medical conditions such as obstructive sleep apnea, thyroid disease, renal disease, and others can manifest with sleep abnormalities and should be screened for by a physician.
Absolutely.
Optimal sleep helps lower blood pressure, lower insulin levels, reduce cravings, improves mood and energy, and improves natural production of growth hormone and testosterone in men.
Absolutely.
That's a big one,
So, and also the other medical condition associated with poor sleep is hormonal deficiencies, particularly progesterone deficiency in women and testosterone deficiency in men. Both of those are known to be associated with poor sleep. So another reason to potentially seek some evaluation of your hormones if and when you are experiencing sleep disturbances.
So we've talked a lot about the negative things, you know, the issues with not getting enough sleep. And now let's talk about, in order to optimize sleep, what are some practical tips for us?
Absolutely. I think, you know, cool, dark room is number one, and a room that's somewhat ordered. We'll talk about order in 2 weeks with respect to this recovery concept. And when I say that is like, you don't want your room like a mess, like, cause there's always things in your room that may need to be organized. And it doesn't mean that it's gonna for sure disrupt your sleep, but in the back of your mind, if you're in a disordered, cluttered environment, my suggestion is to order it if you have difficulty with sleep, because I promise you will likely have better sleep in an ordered, clean, kind of safe and, you know, environment where you're comfortable. You know, I think that, you know, think of this, I talk to my male patients about this as well as the female patients, is, hey, your bedroom is like a layer of simply warmth, comfort, security. It is there for you and your wife, or if you're a wife, you and your husband, for intimacy and recovery and sleep. That's it. And so I say no screens in the room, no TVs. Really recommend getting them out. Recommend getting pets out and kids out. So of course, this is tough for young parents that still have children that are maybe either nursing during the night or in a, you know, a bassinet next to the bed. And so I recognize there's seasons of life where you may have that. We had a season of about, you know, 4 to 6 years where we had a child that was always in the bed, and it's probably not the best habit, of course, but you know, we recognize that happens. And so my desire though is, hey, as clean as possible, as ordered as possible, as cool and dark as possible. no screens, no pets. All that is definitely beneficial, and as dark as possible for sure. No ambient light.
Yep. As dark and as cool as possible. No ambient light. Yeah, you recommend no TV. Keep digital devices at a distance. That's another good one. We like to set our phones right by on the nightstand, right by our bed, and man, it's so important to turn that off.
Put it on a dresser.
Yeah, away from you. I like that. That's
on
a good
airplane mode. So really where you're not going to get disrupted at night. Yeah. And people just have to recognize that, hey, that's your sleep and recovery. And does everyone follow this? No, it's hard to do because people at my age have teenagers that are out, at night as well. So trying to have closure of where they are when they're coming back may keep you up. It may keep your phone on.
Can you sleep when they're still out? I'm curious. I haven't gotten to this point yet with my kids, so.
Actually, I can. And I have a 17-year-old, and I trust him. I do. And again, I recognize that in 1 year, he's going to be out, or 1.5 years, he's going to be out of the house. So, we have our understanding, and he kind of knows the process of what to do. But I'll tell you that no, I'm at the point right now with him, my phone is off, and I need sleep that much, and I trust the component. And usually he's either getting home or at home, by the time, and he doesn't go out a lot. It's just, but that's something that I think you got to walk through as a parent is recognizing that, hey, that phone on is always the potential of someone contacting you. Of course, get notifications off. Messages shouldn't be pinging in the middle of the night.
For sure.
And the reason why to keep it on a dresser as opposed to a nightstand is because even if you have it on airplane mode, still the thought of it there is, I wonder what's going on. I can just grab it, get it off airplane mode, say, hey, is there something on social media or email or whatever? Exactly. So another thing I do, I have no email on my phone. I have no social media on my phone. That helps as well. So it limits the amount of social media I do. Yeah. And of course, limits the media to a certain extent as well.
Okay. I like that.
Yep.
So have a sleep routine, a ritual that is comfortable and consistent. I think that's a big one.
Consistent.
Yeah, consistency.
So your body knows what to expect.
Yeah. Keep work and stressful input away from bedtime routine. Any input an hour before bed should be calming, positive, and restful.
Think about this. Don't start a project at 9:30 at night, like starting to write something that you don't finish, or a new, project with work or what have you, that you're going to have it in limbo. Try and close and have closure with respect to things before you shut down for the night. And that's
makes total sense because the wheels are going to be turning. If you don't finish it, you're going to be thinking about it and not be able to shut down. Lower alcohol and sleep medications, which alter sleep stages and lead to dependence.
Alcohol, no question, affects sleep. Even a small amount affects sleep. Now, does this mean don't drink? Well, there's some people that say yes, that any alcohol acts as kind of like a poison in the sense that it poisons your sleep and your recovery. So if someone's going through acute stress and or acute severe disease or a state of disbalance, I actually tell them to completely eliminate alcohol. That's everything. So it depends on, like, if you're have decent energy, you're doing okay, you're not struggling significantly, I think a couple drinks a week is okay. That's probably 1 to 3 a week. But then if you're dealing with significant issues and or sleep problems, avoiding or significantly reducing alcohol is a must. Yeah.
So what's the thought there, or the science behind it? You feel like a glass of wine kind of calms you and helps you sleep, but then as you start to go through the different stages, is there a point where
it does disrupt sleep? There's evidence it disrupts deep sleep and potentially REM sleep as well, and the quality and the quantity of it.
And then consider a short gratitude tomorrow to-do list before bed in order to recap the blessings of the day and order your task for the next day.
Absolutely. And going back just to the alcohol thing one more time, it also lowers heart rate variability. As we talked about in previous discussions, if you have a lower heart rate variability, what happens is you're a little bit more in that fight or flight. So alcohol will reduce heart rate variability, which is a sign of health. And the lowering of it is a sign of a state of disbalance. So you want as high a heart rate variability as your body naturally produces. and drinking alcohol before bed does lower and reduce heart rate variability. So
gotcha. That's good. So yeah, then the short gratitude tomorrow to-do list.
Yeah, and that goes...
Recap the blessings of the day, positive thoughts,
exactly.
For.
I mean, do you see that that's interesting and important?
Yeah, really, it is.
Do you write anything down, or do you have like maybe just thoughts in your mind and discussions?
I do sometimes, I do have a pad that I keep by my bed, and I do sometimes. But a lot of times it's just that mental checklist, and man, like, look at the blessings that I received today, and like, look at the good things. I mean, yeah, it's easy to get caught up in seeing the negatives, so why not take that time and be mindful of all the blessings, all the good things. And then, to help think about the next day, and the blessings that are already there that I know, waking up to a wife and kids and a house and shelter and food, and like there's so many things that being mindful of and having that positive outlook on does give you peace and makes you more restful and calm.
I think as a couple too, male and female, husband and wife together, having communication and not having a disruption emotionally before bedtime is certainly a blessing. And if you are in a fight or a disagreement, finding some degree of either closure or discussion to the next day where you're like, we're gonna take a pause here. We're gonna enjoy the night together, whether it's talking about something or whatever else, and then bring this up the next day. Also, just to go into maybe a PG-13 component of this is sex plays a big role in sleep as well. So there is evidence that intimacy and orgasm actually benefit the sleep of a woman because of the oxytocin production. And so that's that feel-good and or closeness hormone. But the lack of it, or the lack of a fulfilling intimacy within a partnership, a husband and wife, can actually disrupt sleep, and it leads to kind of an angst or a kind of like a tension. So exploring that with your spouse is so important, because if there's a disbalance in the sexual satisfaction, that can play into a disbalance in sleep because they're never coming completely down, So just a thought as far as things
go. I can tell my wife it's doctor's orders.
Absolutely.
This is for you. It's
There's
good for you.
No question.
You're gonna have a good night's sleep.
No question. But it's so true.
Yeah. It's good. Good stuff. I think we've covered all of this. There were some more verses. Anything you want to add before?
Man, it's vital.
Sleep
is so vital. Gosh, yeah. Recovery is vital. Resilience is vital. It's been disrupted, man.
And it's okay. I like that you said that. It's okay to be selfish with this because it does benefit you in such a way that it's going to benefit others. So be selfish with it. Make sure you're getting. I mean, you didn't talk about, I guess, the recommended, night, how much sleep.
8 to 9 hours.
8 to 9.
We talked about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I blacked out during that part. So 8 to 9 hours. That's a good.
Maybe you need more sleep.
Right. I must. But no, I think a big part of it is being able to lay down at night and kind of get, like you said, think about the positive things, having that mindset of look at your blessings. And there's some verses in Proverbs 3:21 through 24, that say, "My son, do not let wisdom and understanding out of your sight. Preserve sound judgment and discretion. They will be life for you, an ornament to grace your neck. Then you will go on your way in safety, and your foot will not stumble. When you lie down, you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet." Just thought that's so good,
Yeah. Well, kind of speaks to like a sound mind, but also a clean conscience leads to peace that allows for rest. And that peace that passes all understanding, I believe, ties into all that. And that is truly, again, what you're talking about with respect to the spiritual component is so true, because people who are still, stuck in a cycle of sin and guilt and shame, or stuck in a cycle of a bad or toxic relationship of neglect, abuse, what have you, all of these will disrupt your ability to come down and sleep well, which then will persist and then cause more disruptions in your health long term. And then what will happen with some of these patients is that, and you'll see it, and they'll see doctors, and the doctor will see a blood pressure issue or a depression issue and not recognize that, hey, this is chronic sleep deprivation from 6 months ago that's persisted, and then potentially talk about getting on sleep hypnotics or other medications that don't really benefit the sleep cycles, but actually create dependence and never get to the root cause, which was maybe in that case neglect or a toxic relationship that we need to get to the root cause of. And that's where really exploring root cause with a lot of this is so important to recognize.
I like it. That's all really good. It all ties in together. And this has been another really good one. Thank you guys again for joining us. Go get some good sleep.
Maybe I'll go take a nap.
That's a great idea. We need it.
But no, thank you again, guys, for listening. We really hope you guys have a great weekend. We do appreciate the support. Please like and subscribe. We're putting out videos every week. We want to empower you as individuals to be able to live a holistic, healthy life that's full of abundance and vitality. And finding ways of allowing you guys to do that is certainly a passion of ours. So thank you.
Thank you. Take care.